Alright, for number 1, some of us may have a different graph. It shifted on some of your papers and not on others. So some of you may have one that goes through 1, and some of you have one that goes through 0, or you may all have the same thing. I don't know. So tell me, what equation did you get for this? Or you could say that off.
-2.
So plus 1 plus 0 or nothing if it went through 0 for you. Number 2, how do we find the slope? So that would be 3 minus 3 over negative 3 minus 4, or 0 over negative 7, which would be 0. And equals 0. Number 3, you are dividing like bases. What are you doing with the exponents? Subtracting. And actually dividing the numbers. So it'd be 1/9. C to the 9th over C to the 4th would be C to the 5th. D to the 3rd over D to the 7th would be negative, or D to the negative 4th, but that would just be D to the 4th down here. Questions on those 3? Number 4, combine the terms. We need to distribute. We have 3x plus 10x minus 12 minus x minus 2. Combine your like terms. So you have 3x plus 10x is 13 minus x is 12x. And then negative 2 minus 2 is negative 14. For number 5, what type of line is this?
Dash line and one that goes to right.
Okay, so it will be shaded to the right, it will be dashed, it will start at 1. Will this be vertical or horizontal? Vertical. So it will be a vertical dashed line that is shaded to the right. Did we have any Khan Academy Does Math questions before we talk about some specific dates? Alright. 1. Your SOL is May 18th at 11:20 p.m. I don't know if you want to write that down. It's on the board, it's on your calendar, but there's a question mark by it because I wasn't sure when I printed that off. But that is 11. I'm sorry, a.m. Yes, I'm at a.m.
Is it during class?
No.
Yo, guys,
Does it have a time limit?
No, I do not believe it has a time limit. You have basically all day. But if you take all day, that may interfere with like you getting home. Your parents may have to come get you type thing.
Is it?
May 18th. The last day of SOS.
Why does it start that way?
That's when the testing coordinator put it out.
That is 2 days before my performance required.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Wait!
Guys, listen, because you all have important questions and you may have the same question. Make it straight to where we're going for our next class. So I believe that is a blue day. So you would come here, and I think you eat a lunch or something like that, and then go to the library. I believe. Yes.
So if we want to take our day and then we go to after school, and if you have rehearsal that day, how would that work?
That'd be a question for whoever runs that.
It's a standard test. They're gonna give you this a little time. You just have to make it up another time. It's an SOL. You can't work around the SOL.
Yeah.
And water, there's a bunch of different grade levels, so that you're working around
If you don't pass this one, you have to pass like the one next to it.
So if you don't pass but fall within a certain range, you'll have a chance to take an expedited retake, which I am assuming will be like the week after SOLs. I don't know. So. If you don't fall within that range, well, let me start over. If you take it that second time and pass, then you're good. If you take it that second time and don't pass, then yes, you would have to take either Algebra 1 SOL next year or the Geometry 1, most likely the Geometry 1. If you don't fall within that range the first time, then what I said for the second failure would be the same thing. You would have to take either Algebra 1 SOL next year or the Geometry 1, but most likely the Geometry 1.
Okay.
Okay.
So, will it tell us the score as soon as we finish it or
No.
no?
Well, let me say, I don't think so. It hasn't in the past, so I don't know for certain, but it hasn't in the past.
So, if we pass this SOL and when we pass the next year's SOL, we don't have to take any more math SOLs.
Wrong. If you pass this SOL, you're done with math SOLs.
Oh, so there's no more math SOLs after this.
You only have to pass one.
Get an advanced diploma or
Either or.
It's just required.
And I forgot my last question.
Okay, when you think about it again, let me know.
So like, you know how we have an extra major here after the calendar? So if we like everyone passes it, what are we gonna do on those days?
If everyone passes the SOL and no one has, well, let me say this. If everyone passes, you still have the option to take the final because it may or may not still help your grading. So we will still review for the final for anyone who wishes to take it. However, if no one chooses to take it, then we'll do something else. I don't know yet. Okay,
Is the SOL on paper?
computer.
Oh, yeah. My last question, you don't have any questions on the SOL?
I do not. In the past, I want to say there was 30-ish.
That's not.
That could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
And there's no time limit?
And that was elementary school. 70 questions.
I'm just gonna hope it's like below 50. That's all that's all I'm hoping.
If I'm basing it on past SOLs, like the one you guys, the pre-SOL you took in Go Formative, I don't remember how many questions that was, but it would be about the same
Oh, I
amount.
didn't take that. Do I have to take
You probably should, but we'll be doing it again here soon. Priscilla? I don't know that
Is
either.
that 400?
Well, yeah, the overall passing score is 400. Yes, I don't know how many questions you need to get that score. Michaela, and then
2 things. Will you know how many you have to get correct?
say that one more time.
Will you know how many you have to get correct?
Hopefully soon. I'm hoping. I don't know the actual answer to that.
And then also, could you reopen that one or yeah, something and go forward and like look at your scores again?
Okay, it should still be open, but I will double check that yet.
Yeah. I was gonna say like, you know, like if we get like 400 and if we get higher, isn't it like 60 or 70%?
Something like that.
Oh, we got that 50.
I really do not know the percentage you need to score correctly to pass. Okay.
My last question, do you know how many points you can actually get if you get all the questions or you know
I think it's 600.
600?
Have you ever taken an SOL before?
Last year was my first year ever taking this. So
Are you serious?
I took finals in Missouri. There was no SOLs. It was just finals.
Yeah, every school, state has different things. Like Florida, they have the FSA to change.
The finals are basically SOLs, but like it's just like this stressful week of just like a paper, just like circling boxes.
Like that's why colleges don't ask like, oh yeah, what's your how about your SOL scores and stuff, because it's different in each state.
Do we have any other SOL questions?
It's about 67%.
again, I don't know how many questions it is or how many you would have to get right. Any other SOL questions? Okay, look at your calendar. When I printed this off, I didn't know certain things, and I know certain things now, so I have more dates than what it says. So if you wish to write any of this down, you're more than welcome to. I will be updating Canvas and setting dates as well. So the dates on there so far are correct. You can take the question mark off of the SOL date because that is your SOL date.
11 a.m.
11:20 a.m. Okay, and then 5:23 and 5:24. Well, I would say you guys are 24. Yeah, so 5:24 for you guys. We would be reviewing for the factoring test, and then taking the factoring test the day after. The factoring test would be on the 26th, which is why it's up on the board. On the 31st, we would be reviewing for the quadratics test. And June 2nd would be when we take that quadratics test.
Are you going to be doing retakes early?
Yes, but they'd have to be done quickly. And if, I'll say that, I'll come back to that in a second. Monday, June 6th will be your Unit 12 test, but that's going to be a special, different type of test where you get to use open notes. That's why we're not going to review for that one.
Wait, have you already been taking notes on that stuff or no?
No.
Okay.
Wait, what day is that? June 6th?
June 6th.
We get us to June
15th, but then again, I don't even know if
Some of those days are finals.
Well, wait, my question is, so for people that have to take, for the people who aren't taking finals, do they have to come on like the last 2 days of school? Because I heard that those are just free.
I am not allowed to say that you cannot come to school. Take that as you will.
But basically what you're saying is we don't have to.
I cannot say you cannot come to school.
Yes, so you don't have to go.
After we take the Unit 12 test, we'll be reviewing for the final / anyone that needs to retake those 3 tests, and I will try and get those graded as quickly as I can. But anyone that needs to retake those tests can use that time to do retake work and stuff like that. Another option I'm giving you is either do that or take the final and I'll go back and replace grades. So you'll have that option. Then your final, for anyone that would need to take that, is June 14th.
If we have that final and there's no reason to still take the final, will you already adjust grades?
If you take the final, your grade is what it is.
Oh,
There is no, oh, I did bad on this, can you exempt it? No, you took the final, so the grade has to go.
okay.
Oh, so there is no, if you take it, you have to grade it. I didn't take it.
Yes, you either take it or you don't. Okay.
You take it, you fail, you take it.
Yes.
Fine.
Because it's 10% of your overall grade. So, if you did not get the email I sent last week, about the final grade calculator, you can put in certain scores with that and play with that and see, okay, if I did pass the SOL and I didn't have to take the final, but I still took it and I got this, what would I get? You can play around with that. So I sent that through Canvas and through Office 365.
Any other class as well?
It should work for all classes, yeah. Any questions on the rest of the year?
You're done.
The last day of school is June 15th, but the last couple of weeks of June are finals. Well, I should rephrase that. The last week for you guys is finals. The last week before that is senior finals. Yes.
Okay, so today, like we didn't have DS rolls, but today have been our test days for the last few. Like, are we starting a new unit this way?
Yeah, we're starting a new unit today. We would have reviewed first, but then yes.
So basically, our school ends on Wednesday.
The last day of actual classes that you will have is the 10th,
Wait, that's like the last day.
the June 10th. That is the last day of actual classes. Every day after that is finals.
So then technically we could just not come on the rest of
So if you
the
show up to
days,
school, you're
just like just magically disappear.
No, I will show up.
That's just first period exams. But yes, every day after that is a half day lunch is not served. Okay.
So you're working Spanish when you do it at school.
Bro.
Sit on your phone.
Are you
I'm not-
serious?
I would not, no, I'm not.
Sometimes there are a lot of students who come to school who like have to come to school. Because I'm not saying that you shouldn't be coming to school. But those kids, sometimes they put them in a room and maybe play a movie or something like that. I don't know. It depends.
My parents are not gonna let me skip a week of school.
Yeah.
Just tell them that's
I don't wanna,
Just tell them that.
The
It's
schedule,
technically like gonna be 3 days of school. then.
the
Like,
schedule
only
will go
3
out,
days.
I imagine, soon, so that parents will be aware, because they have to kind of be aware, because they have to pick up students and stuff like that.
the last week of school, if you don't take finals, kind of just screw off week, I'm guessing. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not getting.
That's not true. You can still get in trouble.
Oh, well, I'm not coming out.
Thing.
So, when is the actual quarter finalized? Is it after our test, I'm guessing?
You mean like when would that grade go in?
Like when are the grades gonna be finalized?
Oh, I do not have that date yet, but I would imagine June,
After school.
probably sometime June 15th, I think, or we may have a teacher work day June 16th. I don't really remember.
Last month of school is always like the longest, but also like the most stressful.
Once SOL starts, it will fly by.
I was gonna say the longest. Only is the shortest. No, it's like
See,
Well,
only once graduate
Like
for school.
like 30 something schools.
Exactly.
that's
The last
that's
2
like a
weeks.
month.
That's like a month.
Because May's the last like 4 months.
I mean, we don't have school Monday, right?
Correct.
Fresh
Last
hour days.
No. Labor Day is
Fresh
Thursday.
days is the last.
It is the 30th on Monday.
No, it's not.
27,
It's the
28,
second
29,
Monday.
30.
Whatever that holiday on your calendar is, that's what it is.
Okay, that's Monday.
Today's Wednesday.
The 30th is Saturday
This store.
of April. The 30th of May is Labor Day.
Do we have school on Monday?
No.
I figured. Eid.
Wait, what's the holiday even next
It's
week?
on your
Isn't
calendar.
that like Eid?
There's no holiday on
Every holiday.
It's Eid.
It's what?
Crazy.
Do you have any other end of year questions?
But it's like tonight.
Eid is the, like the last day of it. Totally.
I'm not touching that last.
Oh. Yeah, one more question.
Did you have a question, Peyton? Did you have a question?
I think I forgot already.
Peyton, go to your seat.
This is going.
What's the last day we're gonna get
Oh my god.
That depends on if anyone's taking the final. I will say the last Khan Academies that are due would be May 13th.
Oh, really? May 13th to last at 12, so like 2 weeks.
last compounding.
Oh wait, comic book.
But then the last test is,
Well, yeah, the test. Well, I'm really only worried about the first half.
Why is this thing so late?
Wait, so are these notes for the second unit or the 11th unit?
11th, yes.
Yeah.
Alright, so this, what we're starting is quadratics. This is the last full unit of stuff. The next unit is like a bunch of last minute stuff we just have to talk about. We are going to be doing SOL practice within that, not today, but next class we'll be doing quadratic stuff and SOL practice within the same thing. So make sure you have these notes in front of you. I'm going to pull this down because there's a lot of stuff on here that you need. And you can start copying this down. So, we've been dealing with quadratics for a long time. We just have never used that word. Way back when we were doing domain and range for the first time, and we had like U-shape names. Anytime we did anything with factoring and had something that was squared, that was a quadratic. When we multiplied binomials together to get something that was squared, that was a quadratic. So we've been dealing with quadratics for a long time. We just haven't actually said that. When we talk about quadratics, they're going to be written in this format. Y equals or f of x equals either or. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Anytime we graph a parabola, it makes a U shape, either up or down. That U shape is called a parabola.
A what?
Parabola.
A parabola?
Parabola. Yes. You can draw these rough sketches. If the a value, the number in front of x squared, is positive, your u, your parabola, will face up. If it is negative, it will face down.
It's really easy. Another smiley face.
Kind of, but not at the same time. That is a more advanced level thing.
Okay.
And it's called something else.
Okay, so we're not doing that?
So we are not doing that.
Yay! I will suffer if we win.
That is in pre-calc or calculus.
Do you have to take calculus? Okay, thank God. Okay. Mark
you're
said
not
like
taking
calculus
calculus,
and he
then
always
yes.
tells me like terrors, like they're fun. It's like 2 questions in turn of
Anyone still need this part? Okay.
Thank you.
We are going to be using axis of symmetry, a vertical line that divides the parabola into equal parts. On the rough sketch, you saw a vertical dashed line. That line we won't actually be drawing, but you'll be able to see that it's a line that cuts the U in half. To find the axis of symmetry, we're going to be using this formula, x equals negative b over 2a. That is something you would need to know and remember. Once we put in all of the values, the b and the a come from your equation that you'll be given, you'll get some number. So x equals that number would be your axis of symmetry, that vertical line.
An excerpt.
Where
In the second, the bottom one, highest point.
highest point is called a maximum, so x. Great. When we find that x equals whatever that number is, we're going to use that value, put it back into our equation to find our y value, so that we get an ordered pair. That ordered pair is going to be our vertex, the turning point. That's usually the lowest point or the highest point of the quadratic. You don't really need to know the minimum and maximum part, but you can write it for now. So we're going to do a few of these examples together, and then move on to actually graphing. Anyone still need this part?
On essay, we'll change this drafting equations. Like that.
So we'll be plugging that formula on the axis of symmetry.
Heard the second part of your question. What did you originally say?
Like if we're trying to solve like a problem like this, this is how we plug this in desmos.
Here it is type the equation. There's not an equation given yet, but you'll see the equation here in a second. Whatever equation they give you, you would just put that into Desmos. It would graph it for you, and you'd be able to see the axis, not the axis of symmetry, but the vertex point, which would help you determine the axis of symmetry. Anyone else still need this part? I'm going to do this first example on this page at the bottom.
Okay.
So you'll be given some example that looks like this.
We'll plug that into desmos.
Yeah, when you're doing Desmos. Right now we're not going to do that, but we will do Desmos and show you how to do that in a second. So right now we're going to do this by hand. So finding the axis of symmetry, we're going to use that formula x equals negative b over 2a. We're looking at this to find our b and our a values. The number in front of x squared is your a, that's b, and that's c. Number in front of x is b. The number without an x is c. This is going to be negative no matter what. Think about that kind of like slope. We're always subtracting. So we have x equals negative 8, even though our 8 was positive. If it was already negative, you would put negative, negative, or make it a positive. Over 2, your a value is the number in front of x squared, so that would be 1. So what would x equal? Negative 4. We're going to use that negative 4 to find our y value. So you could do this by hand or put it in your calculator and find this out. I am going to set this up first. We're going to take this equation and put negative 4 in for all of our x's like we're evaluating.
Thank you.
So you can either do that by hand or put that all in your calculator at the same time. Someone tell me what your y value is. Negative what? 1. I don't believe that is 1. So then we would use the x and the y value we're given, put those together in an ordered pair, negative 4, negative 1. And we're going to draw a rough sketch of this. The rough sketch is going to help us start practicing where our vertex goes and does this open up or down. So you can draw in axes over here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Plot the point negative 4, negative 1. And then look at your a value. Is your a value positive or negative?
Why did you put in -1 side the dot?
Because the point was -1.
Because I put it 1
This is what we're doing in the first place.
16 minus 32 is -16 plus 15, that is +1. No, it's -1. It was -16, and I said 14, that's why. Olivia?
After we do this kind of
Yes. Is your A value positive or negative?
positive and these two things are positive.
This right here is positive. So that means this would face up.
That's all.
Yes. For now.
You just look at A and see if it's positive and not for someone.
Yes.
I'm very much so very confused.
Before we continue, what questions do we have?
Okay. So, okay. So we have the formula, right? Okay. How do we put that in? Since we have the ABC, we put D or
This is D, this is C, this is A. In our formula, put B in, put A in.
what about C?
We don't need it right now.
Okay. Do we solve that?
-8 over 2, which is -4.
Okay. Okay. And then y equals -4 squared plus.
We take the equation we're given and put this into all of our x's.
Okay. Oh no, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
On the next page. Reading number 2. If you need to, write your axis of symmetry up here, or the formula. How would we set this up?
-10 over 2 times -1.
X equals -10 over 2 times -1. Yes. And then what would our axis of symmetry be? +5, x equals +5. And then we would put 5 into our equation for y and find what y is. -10 over -2. Remember that there's a negative out front here. If you don't put that negative, it'll change your answer. What is our value for y?
Actually, be the problem is understanding.
You mean put this in a calculator and find your answer? Or do it by hand? Either or. It is 2. So your vertex would be the point 5, 2.
A line would go down, right? Because it's negative.
How do we get to?
Hold that. What line are you talking about?
The graphing thing would go up, right?
It would go to the right 5 and up. Lily, to answer your question, someone put this in the calculator or solved this by hand and got 2
So you just put the whole thing in the calculator?
at the same time. Yep.
And do we have to draw the sketch?
For now, it's just helping you figure out where your vertex goes. Is it open, up, or down? So it's good practice because we are going to actually graph.
I mean, if you were to put the actual equation with the x inside of it, we just look at the vertex and the coordinate, like the x and y, and that would just be our vertex.
You mean if you put this in a y equals?
Like if you put y equals -x squared plus 1 minus times 23 in the equation, you can just get a vertex.
Like if you put it in the graph, is that what you're talking about? Yes, but sometimes the graph doesn't show you, like you have to count the points and look at the table and figure that out, yes.
Okay, but I got 2 points.
Make sure you put this negative in front.
Oh, and if you don't put it,
It would change it. You would get something like, something bigger that wouldn't be on a
I
normal graph.
got 52.
Yeah.
Is that how you know if you did it wrong if you can't graph it?
If you can't graph it, something's wrong, yeah. Does this open up or down? Yeah, because there's a negative in front of the x squared. Okay. We're just going to do a couple more of these. I'm gonna.
In the quadratic equation, why don't we add the x?
Why don't we add the x's? Because this is x, so we replace x.
So, firstly, the D is actually negative. Would that change it?
We're going to do an example like that. But it would just change.
Would it turn positive?
It depends on your a value. It depends on both your a and b value. So it could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. 10 and it's negative, so let's do 6.
6 and 10?
Yeah, we'll do 6 and then we'll do 10. And then we'll move on. Kayla. For number 6, how would we set up our axis of symmetry? I'm going to have to go negative. Right. This would be a negative situation.
Over 2 times 2?
So when you know it's going to be negative, you could make it positive already, or leave it and then simplify it as well. So what would this give us? X equals 3. And then we would put 3 into our equation and find our y value. We have 2 times 3 squared minus 12 times 3 plus 9. What is y? We're taking our x value and putting it into all of our x's. What is y? I've heard different things just then. Negative what? Negative 9, is that what you got? You got just 9.
I got negative 5.
Negative 9.
I think 9 times 2 is 18. 18 minus 36 is negative 18. Plus 9, it should be negative. Yep. So 3 negative 9. You may have to make your part small. Would this open up or down? Up. Up, because A is positive.
We have to put the like axis graph or no?
The axis of symmetry?
Like just the graph again.
Yes. Do we have any questions on that so far before we do 10? for number 10, how would we set our axis of symmetry?
Oh, our axis?
Yeah. What is our b value? Is 0. We don't have a b value, so it would be 0. I'm going to put negative 0 just so we practice putting in the negative. But it'd be negative 0 over 0 over 2 times negative 2, which is just 0. So anytime you don't have a b value, your axis of symmetry is going to be 0, always. Yes, there would. It would just be on the y-axis.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, B is 0, right?
Yes.
What happens if A was 0?
If a was 0, it'd be undefined and you wouldn't have a problem.
What if C was 0?
If c was 0, right now that doesn't matter to us. But if c was 0, it just wouldn't move a certain way. C can be 0. It's alright. B can be 0, and axis of symmetry would be 0. A can't be 0.
Okay. How do you know if you don't have that?
You don't have that x term, just x by itself. Are there questions on that before we find y? If we put 0 in for our x values, what would y be? 8. So our vertex would be at 0, 8. Would this face up or down? Down because this is negative. Yes. Then it would just change how we graph it, but we'll deal with that here in a bit. Sometimes we will have a C, sometimes we won't. That doesn't really affect us right now. Alright, moving on to the next page. So now we're going to actually graph these. The axis of symmetry and vertex is going to be the same. I am going to show you what we do with this table and the graph, and then we'll deal with domain and range, and then there's something else we need to add. So for this one, if we're doing our axis of symmetry, how can we set that up? Over, not negative, but 2 times 1. What would our axis of symmetry be? 0. We don't have a b term, so this would automatically be 0. If we put 0 into our x, what would y be? 0. So our vertex would be the point 0, 0. You're going to take that vertex point and put it in the middle of your table. You'll see in a second.
So we can be positive.
Really is so that, yes, but this isn't always 0. So because the vertex falls on the axis of symmetry, that's going to be the point that splits it in half. Okay. On your x's, you're going to go backwards 2 and forwards 2. So -1, -2, 1, 2. To find our y values, yes, you could do that by hand, put in -2, put in -1, 1, and 2, and find all of those, but we're just going to use our calculator. So in your calculator, go into y equals. You're going to type in the function x squared. Use this button right here next to alpha for x, and then that X squared button. Because if you just hit X squared, you won't get an X. So the button next to alpha to get your X, and then the square button. And then once you have that in, you're going to go into your table, second graph. And you're going to find the points you put in your X's, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2.
How do you memorize all of those buttons?
I just do this a lot.
She does it for a living. That's so bad.
That. Yes, they are the same thing because it's cutting it in half. That axis of symmetry is cutting it in half. It should mirror on both sides. So really, once you have 3 of the numbers, you should have the others because they'll just repeat. I'm going to have to leave your question. So you can fill in the rest of your table, 4, 1, 1, 4. Yes, we do that here. It does go up because this A is positive. Plot these 5 points. -4. -1, 1. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. When you graph a line, or not a line, but when you graph this quadratic, draw arrows at the end. If it doesn't make a U, you probably graphed something wrong.
It's like a very curve.
We're about to do that. So domain remembers all of your X values. So if we're looking at all of our X values, and remember this is arrows, it keeps going up to the left and to the right. What would your domain be?
Infinity.
All real numbers. Positive infinity, all real numbers. So I'm going to write this both ways, set builder and interval notation. You don't have to write both. Pick one. So in set builder notation, that would be your curly brackets, X your line, X your word E, your word R. Or interval notation, -infinity to infinity. I'm putting both because on the SOL you may not see interval notation, you may see it more as set builder, which is the XER. So as long as you are able to recognize it, that's really all you need.
The range.
I can't memorize it, I know what it looks like.
The range is.
It goes to infinity, but it doesn't, it's not all real numbers.
I'm so bad at
Me too. You have to look higher to higher.
That's why
So where does this start?
0.
0. And it keeps going up. So in set builder notation, that would be everything greater than or equal to 0, but with y's. In interval notation, that would be 0. It's included because it doesn't have an open circle. So that would be a bracket to infinity. What's nice about quadratics is that the domain will always be all real numbers unless it has specific endpoints. Range will change though. But it'll either go up or go down.
Oh my god, that's the best infinity I have ever done.
Then you start to sort it out. You just do this.
There is one last thing we need to do and talk about, which are the roots or solutions or the X-Intercepts of a quadratic. Do we have any X-Intercepts? Solutions is what that says. It's really fluffy, sorry. It's supposed to say solutions.
what does it say?
It's supposed to say solutions.
Oh.
Anyway, do we have any X-Intercepts or solutions? Does this cross or touch the x-axis at all?
Yes.
At 0. So you're going to write that on the order pair 0, 0. For quadratics, you will have either 1, 2, or 0, none solutions. That's it.
One, so it's 0, 1, or 2.
None, 1, or 2. Wait, no. 0 or none, 1 or 2. That's it. If you have one solution, it touches it along the x-axis once somewhere. If you have 2, it crosses through the x-axis somewhere twice.
So this is only one.
This would only be one. If you have none, it's somewhere where it doesn't touch the x-axis at all.
So only the x-axis, not the y-axis.
Correct. Only x-axis. Solutions, roots, zeros, those are all x-intercepts.
You just plot the point where it's
We don't need to plot this point, no. We just need to write it out.
well, then there's like, I think so we just have like name out like where
Yes, yes. All right, let's do another.
If I put if on the
There may be something like that, yes.
if I put 2 cells.
So specifically on the SOL, with graphing lines, it'll have you like plot 2 points and connect them with a line that is built into the system or something like that. That would probably be wrong.
But
one issue is like online classes is having the computer
Yeah, my boy just.
they know you things.
Right, let's do number 2. Find the axis of symmetry. How would we set that up?
What did you say?
X equals, I'm going to say that again.
I don't think mommy's home.
It'd be -2
Bobby.
over
2 times
2 times, what's the number of x squared? 1.
so it would be negative.
-1.
Wait, I'm gonna be -1.
-2 over +2 is -1.
I see the
I want to apologize for being confused. Everybody's feelings.
You sound like my mom. But
If you put -1 into all of your y values, what would your x? I'm sorry, what would your y values? Put it into all your x values.
We have a bunch of crazy numbers.
Oh, please help
No, both hands.
Amen. Amen.
High five to Scout.
Amen. Amen.
4 is the answer to that.
You gotta really exaggerate, you know?
So our vertex would be -1, +4. We're gonna put that in the middle. From those x's, we're gonna go up and down. So backwards would be -2, -3. Forwards would be 0, 1.
So you can just solve that side and
Now, I say that, but if you just put this into the calculator and found, and I'll show you that in a second, and just found where the points start to go up and then down, or up, stop, and then up again, or vice versa, that would also help you find the vertex and find the points. Put this one in your calculator, x squared plus 2x plus 5. Y equals to get back to here, and then make sure you have this x, and then squared plus 2x plus 5.
That was golden.
That was so funny.
And then you're going to go into your table second graph. So what I just said earlier, if I just went into the table, I see that
Then we
these
graph it, right?
second graph. Second graph. It's second graph.
How do I do that?
It's second.
Okay, right.
Right now.
Oh!
It's second graph.
As I'm looking at this, if I just graph this, I can see that these numbers are going down, and then it gets to this point and it starts to go back up. That would also tell me this is my vertex, and I could go out from there.
Oh. Holy smokes, dude.
So these are the points I'm going to use. 8, 5, 4, 8. 5, 8.
I think I did something wrong.
What is your equation? Oh, my gosh.
What's the number across from 0 to
5. 5.
Yes.
Negative?
Yes. Find the x-length factor for the and y and the
Negative 3 because the values are making the use. 8.
Wait. Oh.
So negative 3, 8. Negative 5. Negative 4. 0, 5. 1, 8.
You're going really fast. I got 0 and 5. How did that work? How do you plot 0 and 5?
The domain used to be the same.
Domain is always going to be the same thing, yes?
Wait.
Confused on what? Bella, confused on what?
That's in the middle.
Oh,
Wait, but there's nothing in the middle.
When you say in the middle, what are you talking about?
There's like nothing in the middle.
Like here?
wait, so is there no solutions because it doesn't cross the x? Oh my.
It doesn't have to go through the middle.
I'm so confused. I have a question.
Ask it.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm having a really hard time graphing this because I apparently don't know how to graph.
Plot your points.
I'm trying. I'm not doing too well.
So plot your points first and connect them with a U-shaped line.
I'm having a really hard time because this is x and y, so if you go to 0 and then go back to 3, I'm doing something wrong.
0 is where your x is. 5 is where your y is. Plot that point.
Okay, then you have negative 1 and 4.
Plot that point.
3, 4. Okay.
Plot them all.
Well, yeah, you put them all, but then it goes down, not up.
It should go
It goes up. There's no negative by the x.
None of your y values are negative, so it should go up.
Yeah, none of them are negative. They're all
Positive. So it goes
positive.
up.
So,
Oh, it does go up. Okay.
Okay.
for your range, where does it start?
We just trying to rush through.
Four. So this would start at 4 and go to infinity. Or y is greater than or equal to 4. So let's say the solutions again. What you said earlier.
No solutions?
Because it does not cross the x-axis at all. Then you would have. Yep.
Oh, it's not direction line.
Yes.
Like your y is like greater than the actual graph. Like it's like 30 or something.
Something's wrong. Make sure, if you're moved on to another one, make sure you have a negative in front. Because that'll do that.
Why is this no solution?
Because it doesn't cross the x-axis at all.
Okay. I'll go back to the next page.
We're going to do 3 and if we have time, 4. Not many of them. So we'll start with 3. Find the axis of symmetry. So you have to remember your negative b over 2a. That's your formula. And then if it's negative 8, it becomes negative 8. Because it's already negative and we have a negative in our formula.
It's minus 8. It's not negative.
It's the same thing.
Is the top always negative?
Minus is negative.
Oh. Okay.
This is
really difficult.
2 times
2x. Negative x.
not x.
17.
I mean,
X
2
squared.
times with a.
1.
Negative 1.
We don't have a negative.
So it would be negative.
So it would be negative 4.
I hate you so much. What in the world? Why is it negative?
Negative 4. Or you're talking about this negative 1?
Yeah.
Isn't X
The 1 in front of it is negative. Put negative 4 into your y values, or into your x values and find your y.
There's so many negatives. Wait.
Make sure you put the negative in front.
It's possible to get a number out of like 1%.
You should get something that matches your graph. Double check that you put in all your negatives.
Wait, what's the vertex?
That's what we're trying to find out. We didn't find the y yet.
Oh, you have to find the y out? Oh.
What's our y value? 7. I think 7 was. Did we all get 7? Yeah, negative 1 is correct.
Wait, so which one is it?
Negative 1.
Which one is correct? Dude, we should have like
In our x's, if we go backwards and then forwards, we have negative 5, negative 6, negative 3, and negative 2. Put that in your calculator, find your y values.
Wait, what are we exactly putting in?
I thought it was the whole thing.
I'm really lost, but not really, if that makes sense.
It does.
Oh, Snapchat. Did you get Snapchat? I haven't got Snapchat. Which is strange because Mom has really good apps. I didn't even share Snapchat.
Go into your table, find the rest of your y values.
Yeah. Good mark.
Wait, I pressed something wrong.
Second graph.
Huh?
So negative 5, negative 2.
I didn't get it. You should have think I
You have negative 6, negative 5.
I thought it was supposed to be zero. Oh, did.
Negative 5, negative 2. Negative 4, negative 1. Negative 3, negative 2.
Oh, it's no solution.
Yes. And negative 2, negative 5. Your domain for this would still be all your numbers.
Wait, how do you know?
It keeps going left and it keeps going right. It will always be all real numbers. For your domain or for your range, this one starts where?
Yeah. So it's doing both words.
That's where it ends. Where does it start? Negative infinity.
Oh my God.
No, not. Or everything below negative 1.
I did that. Wait, how do you know?
That is below.
Yeah.
This is not above.
Above what?
Negative 1.
What's that shape? Negative infinity, and then there's a amount where. Oh. Negative 1. Instead of 1.
That makes sense now.
Okay. I want to do one more, but I want to show you how you would do this on Desmos. If you have your computer and it's alive, take it out really fast so we can do this. If you don't, just follow along with me. Go to Desmos, those of you on your computers. We're going to do number 4 in Desmos. I'm going to have you guys do one more, yes. After we do number 4, I'm going to have you guys do one more. And then the class will be over. Okay. Alright, so make sure you're following along. We're going to put this into Desmos. Negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 1.
Negative 2x squared plus 1.
Plus 4x plus 1.
Oh, my bad.
When you type this in, it's going to give you certain points. It's going to give you any solutions that you have. It's going to give you your vertex. It's also going to give you your y-intercept. You don't need that, but it'll give it to you anyway. So without doing any work, it will give you those 3 things. So we can write those down. Our vertex is 1, 3. And you would put those for solutions, yeah. So vertex was 1, 3. Because we know our vertex, we also know our axis of symmetry.
Just makes your life easier.
So for solutions, it would be, what was it, 0.
It was 0.12.
No, it's 0.225.
Oh, 0.225.
Negative 0. Negative 0.225.
That's a 255.
0 and 2.225. Domain would stay the same. For our range,
3 twos.
2.225.
2.225.
Just a bunch of twos.
For our range, where does it start? 1.3. That's where it ends. Where does it start? Negative infinity, and it stops at our y value of 3.
Oh, it starts at 1.
That would be our x value.
Okay.
She just said starts at 2.
That was it.
What?
Almost on the To fill out those points from your table, on Desmos you would do this. Go into your gear wheel, change this to a table. It's going to give you 5 random points, and these are usually the 5 they give you. You don't always need the points they give you. So like this negative 2, negative 15, we don't want that one. We do want 1, 3, and we want to go backwards 2 and forwards 2. So we need 3. So I'm going to change this one to 3. And it will tell me what my y value would be. And then I could write those in my table.
What would you have 2, -5?
Yes.
They mirror each other. Like.
If this was over here, it would look like this. I just put it in the right spot. So -1, -5, 0, 1, 1, 3.
Oh, it's
And you could graph that on your graph. Next class, I will show you on the calculator how you would get these points.
Problem.
-1,
So we're done now.
So I want you to pick whatever problem you want. Do one of them. You can use desmos, you can use your calculator, does not matter.
Okay.
But I want you to pick one of these and do it. Make sure you have X-Intercepts, symmetry, vertex, domain, range,
Wait, how
and
do we do it on the
solutions.
I don't know how to do it.
It's too early. I did not get that as a